My neighbor thought he could torment my family for years and get away with it. He took me to court, tried to get my 10-year-old son arrested, and made every day a battlefield of petty attacks. So one night quietly, calmly, without a trace, I destroyed the one thing he loved most in this world, and the best part? He still has no idea it was me. You don't really expect a life-changing feud to begin on a quiet, sunny afternoon in your own backyard. You definitely don't expect it to start with a pair of barking dogs and a moment of chaos that should have lasted barely 10 seconds. But that's exactly how this entire mess began. My dog was in my fenced backyard when my neighbor Stoglet, call him Gary for this story, wandered in through a gate someone had left open. Before I could even process what I was seeing, my dog reacted instinctively. A blur of fur, snarling, snapping. My heart was in my throat as I yelled for my dog to stand down. Thankfully, I was close enough to stop it before things got serious. Gary's dog ended up with a few bite marks. Painful? Sure. Life-threatening? Absolutely not. But Gary came storming over like I had personally sent my dog after his on a military mission. He wanted me to pay the entire vet bill. Not half, not a reasonable portion. Every single cent. I tried to stay calm. I reminded him gently, firmly, that his dog had been trespassing in my yard. It wasn't my fault. But then he threatened to take me to court. And here's where most people fold. Here's where most people say, fine, whatever, I'll pay it just to avoid the trouble. But I refused. I offered half the bill just to keep the peace, but he smirked and rejected it like I'd insulted him. So to small claims court we went. The trial lasted all of 3 minutes. The judge looked at the facts, asked a couple of questions, and said, "Sir, your dog was off-leash, unsupervised, and entered his property. The case is dismissed." I should have walked out feeling vindicated. Instead, I walked out knowing I'd just made an enemy. The escalation petty turns dangerous. The pettiness began almost immediately. Every trash day, like clockwork, my garbage cans were mysteriously tipped over. If I was outside and he drove past, he'd lay on the horn and flip me off like he was performing for an invisible audience. But then, it got personal. One day, my 10-year-old son was riding another neighbor's mini bike. Kids rode that thing all the time. It was practically a shared toy. But Gary? Oh, he saw his opportunity. He tried to get my son arrested, not the other kids. Not the ones who lived in the house where the bike actually belonged, just my son. I can't explain the rage that hits you when someone targets your child. Your chest tightens, your hands shake. It's not anger, it's something primal. Something ancient. At that point, I wasn't dealing with a petty neighbor. I was dealing with a man who wanted to hurt my family. We finally had enough. We filed a restraining order against him. And honestly, if he hadn't backed down, I would have taken it all the way. He must have felt the legal heat, because we got a letter from his lawyer. He would refrain from any contact with my family for 2 years. And just like that, the war went silent. But silence isn't the same as justice, and let me tell you, after everything he put us through, I wasn't done. The calm before the storm, a seed of revenge for a long while, I held my ground. I didn't retaliate, didn't stoop to his level, didn't push back. But then one day, I walked into a hardware store, just a normal Saturday errand, and stumbled across something. Extraordinary, Japanese beetle traps. If you've never seen one, they're basically plastic bags with a scent lure inside. The lure smells irresistible to Japanese beetles. They fly in, but they can't fly back out. What really caught my eye, though, were the refill pack small waxy scent squares designed to be placed inside the traps. And right then, like the click of a lock opening, a thought formed in my mind, a thought with edges. A thought that made me smile. Because if there was one thing in this world Gary loved, truly loved, it was his rose garden. A huge, meticulously maintained spread of roses in every color. His pride, his joy, his identity. Japanese beetles, in case you didn't know, love roses. And I suddenly knew exactly what I was going to do. The PLAN precise patient. Perfectly legal, I bought 4 packages of the refill lures. 4, not the traps, just the lures. That night, I took the little wax cups and put them in the freezer. The cold hardened the wax, making it easier to pop out. Then I set my alarm for 3 a.m. there, Something surreal about waking up in the dead of night with the pure intention of committing a harmless yet devastating act of genius. The world feels different, quieter, almost complicit. I slipped the wax scent lures into a baggie, pulled on dark clothes, and stepped outside. The air was cool. My street was dead silent, everyone sleeping peacefully. Everyone, except me and my quiet little plan. I crept toward Gary's house like a shadow. His rose garden sat there, proud even in the dark. I knelt down, gently parted the mulch, and slipped pieces of the wax scent blocks underneath. One here, one there. Dozens in total, perfectly hidden, no damage, no vandalism. Nothing illegal. Just an irresistible invitation. A siren song for the one creature on earth that could destroy his pride and joy in days. By the time the sun rose, I was back in bed, smiling. The storm arrives, Beetles, by the thousands. The next day was hot over 90 degrees by mid-morning. By then, the wax had melted right into the mulch, releasing a scent into the air so subtle no human could detect it. But the beetles could. By 11 a.m., I took a peek outside while pretending to rake leaves. And there they were, tiny glints of greenish bronze, fluttering around his roses. A few at first. Then more. When I biked past that evening, making sure it looked casual, I saw a small cloud of them. A swarm beginning to form. Gary hadn't noticed yet, but he would. The next day, the cloud became a storm. By noon, his roses weren't flowers anymore, they were battlegrounds. Beetles crawled over every petal, chewing through his plants like a tiny, unstoppable army. And that's when he finally saw it. I watched from a distance as he flew into a kind of panic I had only ever seen in sitcoms. He sprayed chemicals. He dumped powders. He waved his arms around like he was trying to fight off a biblical plague. But it didn't matter. Because he wasn't fighting a normal infestation. He was fighting every Japanese beetle within a several-mile radius, all summoned to one place, his place. By day 3, there were thousands, if not tens of thousands. They were in the mulch, on the lawn, on the driveway, covering every inch of his once perfect rose garden. On day 4 it was over, every rose. Gone, nothing left but thorny, skeletal stems and shredded leaves, his masterpiece. Destroyed. And I didn't have to lift a finger. Well, except for placing a few wax squares. The satisfaction, justice, quiet and complete. I never laughed out loud. I never told my friends. I didn't even tell my wife, but inside I was glowing with the quietest, deepest satisfaction a man can feel. Not because I enjoy destruction, not because I enjoy revenge, but because for years I had chosen the high road. And for the first time, I let myself step off of it just enough to balance the scales. Best of all, he never suspected me, not once, and he never will. It's been years since then. His roses have fully recovered, and interestingly, he's been a very, very quiet neighbor ever since. If you enjoyed this story of quiet, flawless, poetic justice, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed, real or fictional? Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more stories where karma doesn't just catch up. It arrives right on time.